talk with Mark Jackard, one of the world's leading experts on energy sustainability and climate change. I want to get, just before we shift our talk here, Mark, over to the BC election, I want to get your thoughts on our national policy when it comes to energy sustainability and climate change. We've had, 3 environment ministers in 3 years. We are going into Copenhagen in December, which is perhaps the most critical international conference on climate change that we have had and that has faced humanity yet. Where are we at nationally?
Right. I'm still pretty frustrated with our national policy, and the reason is because unlike just think of that sustainable prosperity report that you just mentioned, and we call this coverage, just like the NDP in British Columbia who are saying, oh, don't worry, we can all do this on the backs of industry, and sort of ignoring that, people get jobs in pulp mills and cement plants and aluminum plants and smelters, and you want to wipe those guys out, you lose those jobs. At the same time, federally, it's a little different in that they also say we're going to do it all on industry, but then they give industry this, what I call a giant loophole, and say, oh, by the way, if you can pay Dave Brindle to plant a tree in his backyard or to buy a more efficient car, even though he may drive that car more, or to better insulate his house, even though he may expand his house at that time. If you can spend the money that way instead of reducing your own emissions, then we'll count that. And so I call that a very big loophole that's in our federal policy right now. The good news from my perspective is that the Americans are now back in the lead where they ought to be, not in the lead, but taking initiative. And the kind of policies that are being debated in the United States, even the range of them, are going to be ones that Canada will end up having to follow, and they're going to end up being very similar to the British Columbia policies. We're going to have prices on all emissions. We're going to have other regulations, other policies that support all of that.
Does it perplex you as much as it does me that when we face climate change and energy sustainability, that during this economic recession, Ottawa and Washington are stepping up to the plate to partner with the unions to effectively become stakeholders in an industry that is the biggest contributor to climate change, and that is the auto industry?
I think
I don't get it.
I think, well, that's it. I'm glad you said that. I mean, I for one thing, I don't think we should be giving people money to buy a new car.
Can you imagine what we could do for future sustainable energy sources with the money that they're giving to big auto?
Yeah, okay. So you're not going to get an argument from me there. I will say that in Obama's defense, I was just down at Stanford, and I'm part of a group of teams trying to model the different policy options for the U.S. government. We're not working for the U.S. government, but it's a process in parallel with it, and participants are the Department of Energy and their modelers. And so we're having to try to figure out what these policies are and how they'll work. And one of them is, what we've been told is in the U.S., if they give money for cars, they want us to look at a scenario when the only money that goes for cars is for zero-emission cars. So an electric car, a biofuel car, a hydrogen car, that kind of thing. I'm still not a fan of this, but I'm just telling you that that would be better than just the kind of things I hear out of Ontario, that's the auto industry, just give people $3,000 to buy a new car.
Bones sinking like stones, all that we fall for. Homes, places we've grown, all of us are done.
I'm always thrilled when we can bring to you Mark Jackard from Simon Fraser University on the show. He is one of those great minds, one of those future thinkers, and it is indeed a pleasure to talk to him about some of these issues. Tomorrow night, we'll switch our talk to a discussion about the BC recession election and the environment platforms of both parties, the Liberal and NDP. Ahead,